Hello, welcome back to A Conversation with Her. My name is Felicia Brown, and it's been a minute since I've been with you guys, but I am so happy to be back. And it's going to be a little tweak in A Conversation with Her. It's going to be a conversation for her. I have my special guest, my friend's Michelle's husband, and they've been married for 28 years. They have four grown adult children and two adorable, cute twin boys, grandbabies. So, like I said, it's just going to be a conversation for her. We are going to talk about what men do to prepare for marriage and dating a godly way. Women, we're always preparing, whether a sermon or conference or a book or something. So it's nice to kind of get inside the head of a man to see how he prepares. But I also want to say that Reggie's a principal of a high school, Southeastern High School. So proud of him for that.
Thank you.
All right, Reggie. So here we go.
Sure.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
So what personal work, and I know you have, been married for many, many years, but I still think the principles are the same, whether you've been married 28 years
Agreed.
or whether you are for a guy looking to get married now, the principles are still the same. Okay, so what personal work did you have to do in the waiting process and all aspects like spiritual, financial, and social?
Sure. Great question. So I don't want to overstate this, but prayer is so important when you are trying to decide who you want to make as a life partner. So I don't think I think it can be underestimated sometimes, but we really should definitely, make sure that we're continuing to pray. So some of the work that I did was, first and foremost, I had to be okay with me. I had to be okay with just being, by myself and making sure that I knew, exactly what it is that I needed, not just what I wanted, right? So, you have to make sure that you weigh your needs versus your wants and make sure that, you're allowing God to show you some things. So, in this case with Michelle, in fact, I actually, was in a previous relationship. And then I had an opportunity to actually go and be with that person right before I decided to pray about, who God had for me. And it was clear to me, that Michelle was the person that God intended for me to be with. And so it was important for me to be in alignment with what God's plan and purpose was for my life, and not just what I wanted for me. So spiritually, I would say that prayer is key, and then making sure that, you allow God into that space, allow God to give you the vision and kind of create the person that is meant for you, right? Don't try to create it and then go to God and say, okay, does this match what you have? No, give God the opportunity. It's almost like, when God creates things, we have to allow it to be in His hands and stay in His hands. And a lot of times we take things out of God's hands. Yeah. We want to manipulate it and then give it to God and say, this is this presentable? Is this acceptable? And I don't think God works in that way. I think God wants to have full control. He wants to have full access to, how we respond to Him. And He wants to have full access to be able to move and operate in our lives. So financially, when we first got together, I didn't have a lot of debt, right? And one of the things that I will say that I wish I would have done is had a conversation about our financial goals as a couple, what our goals were individually, and then what our goals were as a couple. Because I'm gonna be honest, one of the things that we did was we just started living life.
Okay.
Life happened. Now, granted, we did have a lot of, major life events that took place right after we got married. That was a huge distraction and kept us from maybe focusing on those basic fundamental principle things like finances, right? But if I had to do it over again, I would have definitely made sure that I had a financial plan for myself personally, And then I would have had a financial plan and vision for my family, and then shared that vision and that plan with my, fiance, soon to be wife, before we would have gotten married. We did not start having those financial conversations until now, 28 years later. So I really wish we would have engaged in those conversations sooner, because I think that would have helped us to establish a firm foundation financially. I mean, we're okay, but we're not, we're not where we used to be, but we're not where we want to be. So we're still a work in progress. But there's something to be said about doing that from the very beginning. I tell my own adult children, like, next to your relationship with God, the most important thing you can do is have your financial house in order.
Yes.
I'm convinced of that, now at the age that I'm at now, and after having some life experience, And I used to think that, as long as I'm making this amount of money, we should be okay. Or, as long as we're not, overspending. And no, you need to have a plan, not an idea. You need to have a plan for your money and how you want to manage, the resources that God has blessed us with. And then socially, so honestly, I've never been the type of person that felt like I needed a lot of people around. I've kind of, isolated myself in that way. So, but here's the thing, I don't recommend that necessarily. I was at a men's breakfast yesterday morning, and, the way we ended the message is about finding your people, and having a team of men that you can have around you just to provide, moral support, advice to, guidance to, a sounding board, things that you can bounce ideas off of. And I do have a group of men that I'm connected to now, and I'm thankful for that. But that was intentional.
Yes.
Because naturally, I'm not wired to connect with, especially men, in that way. I just kind of do me. I do my own thing. I'm my own man, make my own decisions. I don't necessarily, weigh other people's opinion, especially other men, because I feel like, whatever decisions I make only really impacts me. It doesn't really affect anybody else. But the thing that I didn't realize is that, there may have been some things that I could have learned from some other men, and gained, some insight, so that I could have, maybe navigated my life a little bit differently, with my wife, with my children. There's a lot of guys I'm connected to that I admire and respect a lot, and I, take some different things from each one of them, to help me become a better man, So I was, somewhat isolated at first, and kind of did my own thing, didn't really, have a lot of, guys that I connected with. But I would definitely encourage, anybody out there now to, find their people, connect with them, make yourself vulnerable, be open, because it can't do anything but help. I mean, as the Bible says, iron sharpens iron, and it is so true. When you get together with other brothers, especially brothers that, are going to, challenge you to make you better, it's for your good.
Wow, that was just a mouthful and a lot. Okay, ladies, are you taking it in? And I just like, the things that you said, because now, because of your life experience, you're able to pour in to young men, to help them to be able to be the best version of themselves first. For God, always for God first, then themselves, and then for their future wife, or the wife that they currently have, if they're already married.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so our second question is, what did you do, or what have you done to kind of maintain that 28 years of marriage, and then what expectations did you have of Michelle?
Yeah, simply put, I think one of the things that has been super helpful to me is that, one, I'm gonna go back to prayer again, because I have learned to ask God to teach me and show me how to love my wife. Because in the natural, it is easy to get caught up in a lot of the nuances of any type of relationship. And what I mean by that is, you nitpick certain things that you really should let go, or things that you need to address, you don't address.
Yes.
So it's kind of like it's easy to get caught up in those nuances naturally. But if you're prayed up and you look at it from a spiritual lens, then God will show you, and give you the courage and the wisdom
Yes.
to, have a courageous conversation with your spouse, but it will be left where you still leave them with some dignity and
Yes.
some respect in the
Yes.
process. It's not about demeaning or condemning. Sometimes, things just need to be said. And so God has really worked on me to be able to do that in a loving way. So I think that has been super helpful. Michelle has responded well to that. Not always, but, sometimes it comes around. And, be open to knowing that you're not always going to be right too.
Yes.
Know that God has given us a helpmeet, to help us, not just, financially, not just, emotionally, not just physically, but that helpmeet means that sometimes, they are helping you to become a better you.
Yes.
Right. And so I've allowed myself to be open to that. And that has helped me to grow tremendously in our relationship. Another thing, outside of praying for, and asking God to help me to love my wife in the way that I should be loved. One of the things that, was really challenging for me that I've really, kind of let go of is allowing, God to have his way with Michelle too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And praying for her in that way.
Okay.
Like having a conversation around some things that, maybe, and then saying, okay, and then praying for her that God will, use whatever
Yes.
insight that I'm sharing to pray about, and and to see that manifest, in her life has been truly a blessing, and also too, the second thing I would say, besides praying for your wife or your spouse or your significant other to, know how to love them well, is even when you might be right, taking the high road anyway.
Yes.
It's
hard for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. So it's like, you don't always have to prove a point, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Even if the point that you're making is valid, even the point that you're making is even right, perhaps. Because, see, sometimes you got to, balance between doing the right, making the right decision, versus, it's a balance between doing what's right and what's best.
Yes.
Right. Sometimes you can be right, but it might not be what's best.
Yeah, that's true.
So I try to weigh, any type of conflict or any type of challenging type of scenario with what's best in this scenario versus just trying to be right. And like I said, even when you may feel like you're right, or even if it's determined that you are, your role in that is just to kind of let it go and, take the high road, be the bigger person. And I can give you a real practical example. There's times when, you might want to, I can give you a perfect example. We were trying to find a shot glass. We have a friend in California who collects shot glasses. So anytime I travel or Michelle travels or we travel together, we will make it a point to get a shot glass. So most recently I was in Philadelphia in November, and I got this really nice shot glass for our friend in California, and we couldn't find it. And and I knew that I had not had it. Even though I'm the one that bought it, Michelle had it last, and we were going back and forth. And she was like, "Well, Reggie, you must have done something." And I was like, "I didn't do anything with it." Well, come to find out, we found it in the bag that she had put it in for her to take something back. And here's the thing, though. I was just excited that we found it.
Yeah.
But that my immediate response wasn't, I knew that you had it. My immediate response was, I'm glad that we found it.
Yes, and perfect there, because most people are like, I knew, see, I told you.
Exactly.
And yes, you got to know kind of how to pick your battles.
Absolutely.
And what to, what to be angry about, and
Sure.
what just to let just go up under the rug, sweep up under the rug.
Yeah.
Yay, well, thank you for that. Okay, and then also I don't think you did, or maybe you did, but what were your expectations of her along the way?
That's a good question. Michelle is a very loving person. And so I guess my expectations was set around how I saw her
Okay.
as a person. And she did not disappoint. She loves her family well.
Yes.
She takes excellent care of our family, and I'm so thankful and grateful for that. And here's the thing: I'm kind of a self-made man in some ways. So let me explain what I mean. When I was in high school, my mom was diagnosed with a terminal illness. My parents were already divorced and not together. Now my dad was still in my life, and I'm thankful for that. I saw him on a regular basis, so it wasn't that type of situation. But he wasn't in the house, right? So, and I was the oldest, and I have a younger brother. And because of the terminal illness she was diagnosed with, so a couple things. One, I didn't know it was terminal at the time. We just knew that, our mom was sick
Yeah.
to the point where she couldn't physically do things for herself, get dressed, cook, clean, that type of thing. So I said all that to say, I took a lot of that responsibility on early on at 15, 16 years old. I was doing a lot of those things. So I've been in kind of this mode ever since. Point being is that, and so you asked me what I expected from Michelle. I only expected Michelle to take care of her and our kids. And Michelle, and one of the things I had to work on and I needed to allow her to do more of was take care of me, because I was so used to being self-sufficient and doing for others. That was kind of awkward for me, to allow her to do that. And, even to this day, and I'm still working on it. I'm a work in progress. Reggie, you don't have to do everything. And she's absolutely right. I don't, but that's the reason why I do, is because it's been so built into me to do that.
Yes.
Right. Because I was helping my mom. I was helping, my younger brother. So that was just naturally how I'm built. And so to allow others to do things or to try to help me, it was hard. And so I now have that as an expectation, in our relationship. But again, though, I still have to be reminded pretty constantly that, God gave me and helped me for that reason. Again, kind of going back to that.
Oh, well, good. All right. See, what is your advice to women as they are preparing, and how can they be a helpmate to their husbands along the way?
So I'm trying to think of something that hasn't been already said. I'm sure we've all heard, and you kind of have to, love yourself first, and kind of, be okay with who you are, which I agree with all of that. But I'm trying to shed maybe a little bit of, different light and perspective, for women that are in the waiting process, that'll be helpful, to them. Besides, just kind of loving yourself and being, I really think that it is helpful that, you find things that you enjoy doing that will kind of, I guess fill a void in a sense, if that void is, you being with a significant other. And here's the thing, do it with the expectation that I'm okay.
Yes.
I think sometimes, we do things or we try things and it's like, well, I'm going to do this and kind of see if it works. Then if it doesn't, then I must need to do something else.
Yes.
No, I think that your disposition and your attitude should be that, whatever I'm doing, I'm working it as unto the Lord, right? And I'm okay with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with where I'm at. And I'm okay with this place, that I find myself right now. I think it's really, I think it was maybe Paul that said, I've learned to be content,
Yes.
regardless of whatever situation, circumstance that I find myself in, wherever I'm at in life. So I really think that is the key, is finding whatever makes you content and you're okay with where you're at and with what you're doing while you wait. I don't think there's any, secret to it. I don't think that there's any deep work that has to be done necessarily. I think it's really just saying, I'm good, I'm okay. And then once you kind of have accepted that, then you can kind of approach each and every day, each and every situation and circumstance. And my point is this: you just never know when something or someone is going to come along, and that's going to be the something or someone that you were meant to come in contact with. And sometimes if we get so focused on what we think we want and what we think, this how this thing is supposed to go, we miss those opportunities.
Yes.
And so I think if we can just say, I'm okay and I'm good, and you kind of move and operate from that space, that creates an opportunity or creates room for you to see sometimes what's right in front of you, or for you to see things that you otherwise maybe wouldn't have noticed.
Oh, that is so good. Yes,
Yeah.
ladies, are you taking this in? All right, our last question.
Sure.
What were some of the attributes about Michelle that drew you to her, that made you say, this is the woman I want to marry, to help me build my life with and accomplish things with personally, as well as, you create your family and for the Lord? I know you just said just her caring heart.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use a real specific example here because this is really the thing that I think kind of solidified it for me, the thing that I admired the most, the thing that I love the most about Michelle. So our oldest son, Javon, is my stepson. Okay, and so I met Javon when he was around 2, which is around the time that I met Michelle. And I love the way that she loved him and made him a priority over, me and over, other things in her life. She made sure that, she kept a very, stable, loving environment. She created that, for him and for her, for their family at the time. And I really just, really admired and respected that. And so I was thinking, if I want, someone to be a wife, a helpmeet, I want that person to, be how she is, with her son. And so that was really a huge part for me. She also, another thing that attracted me to Michelle was that, she valued her relationship with God, and that was important, to her. And, she allowed me to just be me.
Yeah.
Like she loved every part of me just as I was, and I didn't feel like I had to change or adapt or, be this other person, so like when we travel, she's my favorite travel partner just because I can just be me and we can, talk and enjoy our time together. There's nothing worse than, being with someone that you can't really enjoy the things that you do with.
That is true.
Right. So that's one of the things that, I would say that I appreciate a lot about Michelle is that, we can enjoy the things that we get to do. And I do say get because, Felicia knows our family dynamic right now. So, we're kind of, always on as parents, as grandparents, and we rarely get a lot of time to ourselves and quality time. But what I will say is that we do enjoy it, when we do have that time together. We make that our priority, and it happens organically and naturally. It's not something that's forced, and so that's one of the things I really, really appreciate, about her and about our relationship.
Oh, well, that is so sweet. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again for
Of course.
being on my podcast. And so I'm going to do a series. So I will interview, I think, 3 to 4 more other men and where they are, like, and how they prepare for dating or marriage. And so, yes, I think I have about 3 to 4 more people to interview. So, like I said, for us women, just to kind of get inside the head of a man to see what he does.
Sure.
As always, I like to leave you with a little nugget of truth. It is God walks with you through seasons to prepare you for levels, and that's by Michael Pitt. Anyway, as always, God has a plan for you. Find it and walk in it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See ya.